Imagine this: you wake up, stretch, step out onto the balcony, and beneath you, a sheer drop. No, this isn't a dream or a scene from a thriller, but reality for those who have decided that a stable foundation is for the faint-hearted. Houses hanging on the edge of cliffs, floating above water, balancing on a single support, architects clearly enjoy testing our nerves. What drives them? Madness, bravery, or just a total lack of fear of heights? Today, we'll dive into why some people choose to live in places where one wrong step and you're already falling. When architects argue about the challenges of construction, the monks of Mount Shan just smirk. Imagine, two ancient temples, one dedicated to Buddha, the other to Meteora, stand on two separate peaks divided by a chasm. To get from one to the other, you must cross the Bridge of Immortality, a narrow stone walkway perched at 7,655 feet or 2,336 meters. The wind howls, clouds swirl beneath your feet, and all you have is faith and iron will. These temples have clung to the edge of the world for over 500 years, as if suspended between heaven and earth. Every pilgrim climbing the 8,888 steps can't help but feel like an adventurer, because one wrong move here and you become one with the clouds. If someone told you to build a home atop a sheer cliff, you'd probably think they were crazy, but that's exactly what Greek monks did in the 14th century. The Meteora Monasteries cling to rock pillars up to 1,300 feet or 400 meters tall, and back then, the only way up was by rope ladders and baskets hoisted on pulleys. Wondering what monks were told when they asked, "How often do you change the ropes?" "When the Lord wills it to break." Today, there are stairs, but the risk remains. Rocks crumble, wind whistles between the walls, and the height is dizzying. If someone offered you a home atop a 130-foot or 40-meter limestone column surrounded by a chasm, would you laugh? Georgian monk Maxim Kvavtaradze took it as a sign. For 20 years, he has lived alone atop the Kachi Pillar, completely cut off from the world. Food and water are hauled up by a winch, and he only descends every few years. But who built the tiny church on this stone spire? Monks in the 8th century, who apparently found the lowlands too dull. Today, it's one of the most inaccessible homes in the world, no neighbors, but a front row seat to the best sunrises and sunsets. Amsterdam is known for its creative architecture, but the Wizoko Apartments take it to a whole new level of living on the edge. Picture a high-rise where some apartments literally hang in midair, jutting out behind the building's edges as if someone taped them on. In reality, it's a brilliant architectural solution. Due to limited ground space, the designers extended the units outward, supporting them with massive beams. For the residents of these floating rooms, life is definitely more exciting. Every gust of wind is a reminder that engineering isn't just science, but also an art of balance. Living in seclusion is one thing, but building a monastery on a sheer cliff at 10,200 feet or 3,100 meters is another story entirely. Legend says Bhutan's first spiritual teacher flew here on a tigress, making the place sacred ever since. But here's the real question: how did they even get the building materials up there? No roads, no cranes, just a narrow trail that still challenges modern-day tourists. Everything here is steeped in mysticism, and the surrounding forest shrouds the monastery in clouds. But the risk is enormous. The stone walls cling to the edge of a cliff, and every earthquake raises the question of how much longer this architectural wonder can defy gravity. When ordinary houses don't offer enough protection, people build fortresses. And if you're surrounded by a jungle full of predators and hostile tribes, you do what the Cororowai Tribe does: build your homes in trees, not at playground height, but 100 feet or 30 meters above the ground. These houses rest on fragile stilts, with the only access being a long vertical pole. For the Cororowai, it's a matter of survival. For us, it's an extreme way of life. Fancy climbing down from that height every morning? They do it daily and don't even complain. The Euros people don't just live on the water, they build their own islands out of reeds, creating floating villages on the highest navigable lake in the world. It feels like something out of a fairy tale, homes bobbing on the waves, residents fishing, growing vegetables, and even raising livestock on these floating patches of land. But there's a catch. The reed foundations need to be refreshed every few months or else the island will simply sink. Frank Lloyd Wright didn't just build a house, he created a harmony between architecture and nature. Imagine a villa suspended directly over a waterfall where instead of hearing noisy neighbors, all you hear is the sound of rushing water. A dream? Absolutely. A risk? Oh, definitely. The structure is so delicate that engineers have spent decades trying to reinforce it because water and concrete aren't exactly the best of friends. Still, falling water remains one of the most iconic buildings of the 20th century and a symbol of how beauty sometimes comes at the expense of physics. Montreal's Habitat 67 isn't just a housing complex, it's architectural Lego on steroids. Imagine 354 concrete blocks stacked in a chaotic yet perfectly balanced composition, giving the impression of floating apartments. It looks like the slightest earthquake could turn it into a pile of cubes, but the construction is so solid it has stood strong for over 50 years. Living here means being part of an architectural experiment where your upstairs neighbor is literally above you, and stepping out onto the balcony feels like entering a futuristic maze. When a house looks like it's about to tumble into a ravine, it's either a disaster or a masterpiece. The hanging houses of Cuenca, Spain are definitely the latter. Their balconies jut out over a 300-foot or 90-meter cliff, as if daring gravity to do its worst. Built in the Middle Ages and renovated many times, they've never fallen, and that's quite a feat. Today, one of the buildings houses a museum, so anyone can see just how solid those walls really are. Just don't look down. What makes the perfect tea room? Calm, cozy, and perched 20 feet or 6 meters high on thin tree trunks. Yes, Japanese architect Terunobu Fujimori came up with an extreme way to enjoy tea by creating Takasugi-an, a tea house balancing on wooden stilts. To get there, you have to climb a ladder, and inside it's pure minimalism, just tatami mats and a teapot. But the view? Worth every step and every quiver of fear. Just try not to stir your sugar too enthusiastically, you might shake the whole thing. Towers usually reach straight for the sky, but not in Madrid. Puerta de Europa consists of two 374-foot or 114-meter skyscrapers tilted towards each other at a 15-degree angle, as if trying to meet in the middle. At first glance, it seems like they're held up by sheer luck, but in reality, it's masterful engineering. These buildings are so unconventional that locals joke, "Let's meet under the falling towers if they don't fall first." If anyone truly lives on the edge, it's the residents of Castellfollit de la Roca. Their village stands on a narrow basalt cliff 160 feet or 50 meters high, and the outermost houses literally hang over the abyss. An earthquake or a strong wind could be catastrophic, or so it seems, but the village has stood here for centuries, surviving wars and natural disasters, and the locals are sure risk is just part of everyday life. Be honest, could you live in such a confined and risky space? This house feels like it was built on a dare. Bet you can't build a house on a rock in the middle of a river. Challenge accepted. In 1968, a group of friends decided to turn a rock in Serbia's Drina River into a dream cabin, and they pulled it off. The water floods the base, winds shake the walls, but the house still stands. It's been swept away by floods more than once, but the locals keep rebuilding it. It's no longer just a home, it's a symbol of stubbornness and love for extreme architecture. What do you think of this idea? Let us know in the comments after the video. Living in a house that swings from trees? That's a lifestyle for the brave. In Canada, the free spirit spheres are mini tree houses shaped like orbs hanging suspended in the forest canopy. There are no corners, no solid foundations, just round walls and the sensation of being inside a cocoon. Every step makes the sphere sway, so if you have a weak sense of balance, this isn't for you. But for anyone dreaming of living among the trees, surrounded by nighttime forest sounds and a sense of weightlessness, this is the ultimate way to connect with nature. A monastery that's literally embedded in a cliff. That's Santa Marina Madonna della Corona. It clings to a sheer rock face 2,500 feet or 762 meters high in the Italian Alps, as if floating between heaven and earth. Getting there is no easy task. Steep steps and narrow trails await, but for pilgrims, the journey is a symbol of faith. Since the 16th century, this sacred site has drawn those in search of peace and solitude. Even the air here feels different. Cool, clean, filled with silence, and a quiet thrill that the structure might one day decide to part ways with the cliff. They say if you want solitude, choose a home in the middle of nowhere, but the residents of Hoak Luong took that a bit too literally. Their village is wedged between the vertical cliffs of a mountain range, and the only way in is a narrow path that looks more like a climber's route than a road. The most amazing part? Ordinary families live here, growing vegetables, raising livestock, even walking their kids to a tiny local school. This village defies logic because in a place like this, it seems more likely to find dragons than an entire settlement. If castles were awarded for resilience, Prague Castle would have taken the gold long ago. Built in the 9th century, it has survived wars, sieges, fires, and political upheavals, remaining a symbol of the Czech Republic. But what's truly impressive is its size. It isn't just a castle, it's a full-fledged fortress city, housing cathedrals, palaces, gardens, and even the presidential residence. And it all stands on top of an elevated hilltop, offering a perfect view of any approaching threat. The only downside? The vacancies have been filled for 1,000 years. Maybe that's where the magic lies, living in a place where every day is a reminder of how fragile balance truly is. When conventional architecture gets boring, you get projects like this octagonal house. It stands on a hillside, balanced on a single support post, and looks like it's floating over a cliff. Inside, panoramic windows. Outside, the unsettling feeling that a strong gust of wind might send it tumbling. The structure is safe according to engineers, but not everyone is willing to live in a house that appears to defy every law of physics. You know, there's nothing more dangerous than a house hanging off the edge of a cliff, just one step away from the abyss. But that doesn't stop people. They keep building homes in the most extreme places, as if testing the very laws of gravity.
And our episode has come to an end, and we hope that you enjoyed watching this video. We look forward to your questions and comments. Thank you for always being with us.